Hello friends and welcome in today's session. Today we are going to see our chapter number 30 second part. In this we are going to study about the adaptations and population attributes. Right. So adaptation means what actually? So you know that every time there is not possible that for the organism favorable conditions will be available. So sometimes harmful conditions, stressful conditions are there. To escape that stressful condition and survive, so for that organisms make some changes in them, right, and try to survive in that stressful condition. So these whatever the changes they do, maybe it is behavioral, physiological changes are there, biochemical changes are there, these all together it is called as an adaptations, right. Now in this textbook, see, this adaptation point is given and here the definition is given. So here adaptation is an any attribute of an organism, right. So in attribute of organism you can consider about the morphological attributes, physiological or behavioral thing, right. So any attribute of the organism that enable the organism to survive and reproduce both. The organism can survive with this kind of changes, even it can reproduce maximally in its habitat, right. So all these attributes or changes what is observed to survive in that changed environment and reproduce properly, these all changes are called as an adaptation. See here, adaptation is any change of organism, that is morphological, physiological and behavioral, that enable to survive and reproduce in its habitat to the organism, right. So adaptations it will evolve over a long period of time and are genetically controlled, right. So what does it mean? That no one can adapt himself or itself in a very short period of time. It will take a very long time period, right. So whatever the variations will be seen in the organism, right, time to time. So suppose the first generation is there, environmental changes takes place, so that organism will carry out some of the changes in its, and the same changes will be get saturated in it. Possibility is that changes or variations will inherit into the next generation. Then the next generation again will produce some of the variations to survive betterly, reproduce betterly in that changed environment, right. And in this way for every generation these changes, variations will be passed on, and even in every generation some of the variations will be added to make it better, right. So this is a very long process. So adaptations we cannot see in a short period of time. It is a very lengthy process, and as here some of the changes occurs or physiological changes which are takes place, if it is genetically controlled, then and then only it will be passed to the next generation. Here some examples are given, adaptations which we have seen in the desert plant. So how the plants get adapted to survive in the desert condition, right. You know that in the desert condition temperature is very high and water is very less, right. So they need to restore the maximum amount of water in them. To restore the water in them, the desert plant have evolved thick cuticle on the leaf surface, right. Now due to this thick cuticle, whenever the cuticle will be formed, thick layer, then the epidermal cells are there. Here if you consider the epidermal cells, they will not be directly exposed to the sunlight, right. And due to that the temperature increase in the epidermal cells is there, it will be less. On the epidermal cells only stomata are present. So these stomata's temperature will also be not increased so high. So because of that transpiration will be reduced. So transpiration is nothing but loss of water in water vapor, right. So that loss will be reduced. So in this way, this is the physiological change takes place in the plant to reduce the transpiration loss of water, right. So that's why they have developed a thick cuticle on the leaf surface. Second modification we can see or adaptation we can see in the plant, that they have a sunken stomata. Sunken stomata means generally we can see that the stomatas are present superficially on the epidermal layer, right? But here the sunken stomatas are means deeply situated. Suppose this is the epidermal layer, then stomata may present 1, 2, 3 like that on the first layer only. But in the sunken stomata, this notch will get deepen inside and little bit inside the stomata goes, right? The third point is given that leaves modified into spine. So for that example is given of Opuntia, right? And in that you can see this green color phylacoids are there and on that spines are there. So actually this green color flat structure is there is nothing but a stem of the plant, right? And the leaves of these plants are there in Opuntia get modified into a small tiny spines. Now why the leaves are reduced in their size and becomes a spines? Because from the leaves water losses takes place through transpiration, and to reduce the transpiration, to reduce the surface area, leaves get converted into a spine like structure. Now the major function of the leaf is photosynthesis. Now if the leaves are reduced into the spine, how the photosynthesis process will be takes place? Because it is a food producing process and that is the must essential in case of plant. So this is taken over by the stem and stem becomes green in color in Opuntia. So this also adaptation we can see in Opuntia. Next modification is given in some of the desert plants. We can see a special type of photosynthesis pathway, that is the CAM pathway, right? So in this pathway the stomatas of these plants generally remain closed during daytime, because during daytime temperature is very high, right? If the stomatas remain open, then water loss will be there. Large amount of water will be get released due to high temperature, and they have to conserve the water, restore the water, right? If the stomatas will be closed during daytime, then water loss will be stopped, transpiration will be stopped. But in this case, again the exchange of gases is there, the taking of carbon dioxide, it will also be stopped, right? So the fixing of carbon dioxide is there, that generally takes place at night when the stomatas will be opened. So in CAM pathway, stomatas will be remain closed during daytime and only at night time the stomatas will be open. So these are some of the adaptations which we see in the desert plant. First one is that they have the cuticle on the surface of the leaf. Because of that transpiration will be less, water loss will be reduced. Second one is that sunken stomata. Stomatas are deeply situated on the leaf surface. So because of that also transpiration rate is reduced. Next is that leaves are modified into spines. For example, Opuntia, and the stem is modified into green flat structure for the process of photosynthesis. Next one is that these plants are showing the CAM pathway, special pathway, right? So where the stomatas will be remain closed during daytime and open during night time. So that's why special type of pathway is shown in a desert plant. So these are some of the adaptations which we see in the desert plant. Examples are given here, Opuntia and cactus, right? See the next slide, aquatic plants. Now what are the aquatic plants adaptations we can see? So you know that aquatic plants, as they are living in the water, they are floating on the water. So if they have to float on the water, they need to be in lightweight, right? So how they can maintain a lightweight, or they need a buoyancy. So this buoyancy is developed for the plants by making big cells of aerenchyma. So these aerenchymas are there, they are storing air in it, right? So because of air storage in the cells automatically, due to the air, the plant's weight will be get decreased and plant will be get automatically floating on the water surface. So this kind of buoyancy will be produced in aquatic plant. So this is one more adaptation we can see in the aquatic plant. Next one also we can see that in aquatic plants, as these plants are remaining 24 hours in the water, they do not decay, right? Remain as it is or survived. How is it possible? Because the terrestrial plants, one or two leaf if we will keep in the water, definitely on the next day it will get decay, right? But how these aquatic plants will not decay? Because they are again forming a waxy layer around their outer surface, and because of that waxy layer the plants will get protected in the aquatic environment. So this is one more adaptation we can see to survive betterly, reproduce betterly in an aquatic environment, in water, right? Here see the next one is the desert animals. In the desert animal, example is given of the kangaroo, right? All of you know the kangaroo, right? So as this animal is found in the desert, and again you know that in the desert water stress is there, right? Very less amount of water is there, water availability is less. So these animals has to restore the water which is present in their body, right? So how the kangaroo shows the adaptations to reduce the water loss from the body and get maximum utilized water whatever is present in its body. So here the kangaroo is there, kangaroo rat is there that living in the desert, that will carry out the internal fat oxidation. Now in this internal fat oxidation, water will be released as an byproduct, and the same water will be reused by the organism, right? Even kangaroo rat which is living in the desert of North America never drink water, right? This is the picture of kangaroo rat, and they are getting the water from their internal fat oxidation process. Means this is the physiological adaptation which we found in the kangaroo rat. It is also able to concentrate its urine so that the minimal volume of water is lost during the excretion. Means whatever the waste material is there in the body, that waste material is need to throw out from the body, and for throwing out the waste, water is the must essential one, right? And for that again, if more amount of water is used, then waste will be thrown out of the body, again water loss is there. So that's why maximum amount of waste is thrown by using a very less amount of water. So this is what minimal volume of water is used in the excretion process. Next one, see here, Allen's rule is given. Now what is the Allen's rule? If you will see the animals in the colder climate, right, means where the temperature is very less, these animals generally have the shorter ears, very small ears, and limbs also, means maybe the forelimbs and hind limbs, right? So the size of the ears as well as limbs is very short. Now why this adaptation we can see in the animals, those who are living in the colder climate? Because of that, the short size of the ears as well as the limb, the size of the body is get reduced, and if the surface area is reduced, then heat loss from the body will also be minimized. So less amount of heat will be loosed, right, and maximum amount of heat will be stored in the body, and because of that these animals can survive nicely in the colder climate, right? See here the next example, that is the seal, right? So this we found in the polar region. Now if you will see the seal, then in the seal body they have a thick layer of fat below the skin. Now whatever the skin is there, below that a very thick layer of fat is there. Now why the fat is there below the skin? Because fat is act as an insulator. Now you know the meaning of insulator. Insulator means which cannot transfer the heat or electricity. here no any reason for the electricity, but take an example of a heat. So whatever the body's heat is there and outer side cold temperature is there, so automatically the heat will transfer from the body to the external environment. But if the skin is a skin is the conductor of the heat, but below that fat layer is there, that is the insulator, right? So that fat does not allow to escape the body heat outside, as well as outer side whatever the cold temperature is there, this will also be not entered or reduce the body temperature. So in this way, this thick fat layer is there in the body of the seal, that will make him survive in this adverse condition, very cold climatic conditions in the polar region, right? And then it reduces the loss of body heat, short ears and limbs minimize the heat loss. Whatever Allen's rule is said over here, that is given. So you can see this. Now see some desert animals. In that lizard example is there and some of the burrowing animals are there. Here the example is given. Now how they adapted themselves to live in the desert condition. Now lizard is there, these organism is not as like us, they can maintain their body temperature constant by wearing sweaters or on ACs, right? So they will maintain their body temperature constant by their behavioral adaptation. Now what is this behavioral adaptation? They will just take a bath, right? They bask in the sun. Now bask in the sun means whenever they will feel like that their body temperature is going below from their comfort zone, then automatically these lizards will go in the sunlight. Automatically in the sunlight they will absorb the heat from the sunlight and body temperature will be increased. Whenever they feel that their body temperature is rising up above their comfort zone, then they will move in a shade, right, or in a burrow. So whenever they will move in shade region, right, that time their body temperature will get reduced. So in this way, just by basking the sun, they will absorb the heat whenever their body temperature is decreased, and they will move into the shade whenever their body temperature will be increased, right? Even some of the burrowing animals are there, they also help to protect the desert animals from the high temperature. They just go into the burrows deep into the underground, and in this way during daytime whatever the high temperature is there, scorchy sunlight is there, from that they will protect themselves and survive in the adverse condition. So this is what the different adaptations of the organisms we have seen. See here in the textbook, the same it is given, the definition of adaptation is given. Even here the example of various organisms are there, how they have adapted in adverse condition, right? So here it is given about the kangaroo rat, North American deserts it is there, how it is able to survive in that. Then it is given of the plant adaptations, how they have different adaptations are given. Then below that the colder climate animals are there, how they get survived, and for that alien rule is given over here, right? So remember this, it will be asked for 1 or 2 marks. Then some of the physiological adaptations are there, so how they get done. So now one of the example is given here for physiological adaptations in human beings, right? Now in human beings, see that all of you have heard about the altitude sickness. Now what is mean by altitude sickness? Altitude sickness is nothing but whenever, as normally we are living very close to the sea level, right? So as the sea level is as we are there very near to the sea level, here air pressure is more, even amount of oxygen is there, it is also more. As we move up above the sea level, the oxygen concentration is there, it will go on decreasing. So whenever any person shifts from the sea level to the high altitude, right? So at that time the environmental oxygen percentage is there, it will be automatically get decreased. Then the person is not able to remain comfortable in that condition. Maybe he feel the short breath, right, or breathlessness. So nausea will be there. So these are all called as a high altitude sickness. So this is what it is given. The high altitude sickness, whatever the person is experiencing at high altitude, that is more than 3500 meter, right? So the symptoms for high altitude is nausea, fatigue, heart palpitations, increased one, right? And in this actually the oxygen will be less in the body. So once the person reach to the high altitude, then after 1 week, if you will see, so whatever these symptoms are there, they will slowly get decreased. Now how they will get decreased without any medications? Because our body get adapted for that changed environment. Now how it is get adapted? So for that it is given, see here, at low atmospheric pressure or at high altitude, body does not get enough oxygen. So body is solving this problem by compensate the low oxygen availability by increasing red blood cell production, right? So RBC's count will be increased over here, right? Then they also decrease the binding affinity of the hemoglobin with the oxygen, and even they also increase the breathing rate. So by these all these three things, overall the oxygen concentration in the body will be increased, right? So this is what physiological adaptation given in the human beings, which we can observe in a at high altitude as like an altitude sickness, right? Then here some of the questions it is asked. So the answer of these all questions are nothing but adaptations in the organism. So it is said that most of the animals are there, they are showing their all physiological functions in a very narrow range of the temperature. But microbes, if you will see, they found everywhere. Means archaebacteria are there, they are found in hot spring also, deep sea hydrothermal vents also, and where the temperature is more than 100 degrees centigrade, there also we can see them. So how these microorganisms are survive in this all adverse condition? Even next question is that how fish thrives in Arctic waters where the temperature is always below 0 degrees centigrade. So how it is possible that their body fluid is there, it will not freeze, right? Because they have anti-freezing enzyme in their body. So their body fluid will not freeze below 0 degrees centigrade also, right? So like that some of the questions are given here. Then some of the desert organisms are there, like the lizard, how they get adapted in the desert condition, it is given here. So all these points you underline and write in your notes, right? All the adaptations in the plants, animals and human beings, right? So this all you have to write. Next point is the population. In that population attribute, now in population attribute, if you will see, the population is there where the population we can consider whenever there are group of organisms of the same kind, right, living in a one ecological system. Examples are given here for the population, that all the cormorants in the wetlands, rats in abandoned dwelling, thick wood trees in the forest, right? So these are all examples of the population. Now in this, if you will see, some of the attributes are there which we found in the population, but these are not there in an individual. So this paragraph is very important. So many times questions asked on this. How can you compare the individual organism with the population? Now see here, certain attributes are there that an individual organism does not have, but the population have. Now see, first, individual have a births and deaths. Any single individual, if you will take, the individual has a birth and the death. But if you consider a population, population don't have birth and death. It has birth rate and death rate. This is what the first attribution or difference you can consider. Next one is that this birth rate and death rates are there, that is actually considered per capita or birth in the population, right? Or death rates are there, that is also the deaths per capita in the population, right? So whenever there is a change in these rates, means whenever the birth rate will be increased, population will be increased. Whenever the death rates will be increased, population will be decreased. So based on this, the population is, change in population will be takes place, right? Now for this example is given here. So based on this also 2 marks question will be asked to calculate the death rate or the birth rate. Example is given, if there are 20 lotus plants in a pond, right? That will be last year. Now after reproduction, 8 new plants are added, right? Then taking the current population, as 8 is added, 20 plus 8, it will be total 28. Then what is a birth rate, right? So how can you calculate the birth rate? So birth rate is equal to 8 by 20. 8 is added upon 20. After every 28 new is added. So the offspring's birth rate is there. It will be 0.4 offsprings per lotus per year. हर एक lotus, after every lotus, 0.4 offsprings will be reproduced in every year, per year, right? Another example is given for the death rate. If 4 individuals in a laboratory population of 40 fruit flies died during a specific time interval, say a week, means in 1 week there are total 40 fruit flies are there. Among that 40 fruit flies, 4 fruit flies get dead in a 1 week. Then what is their death rate? So you have to calculate 4 upon 40. So it will be 0.1. So 0.1 individual will be died per fruit fly per week. So in this way you can calculate the birth rate as well as the death rate. Based on these 2 marks question will be asked. Second attribute is given, that is the sex ratio. Means population has a sex ratio. Means 60% in the population female will be there, 40% male will be there. But in case of individual, it will have a sex. Means individual, either it will be a male or it will be a female. It can't be a sex ratio, right? So this is what the second attribute. See here, population is nothing but at any given time composed of individuals of different ages, right? So in the population, different age individuals will be there. And if you want to know the age distribution percent of the individuals, then you can plot them for a particular population in a graph. And whenever we plot that on a graph, then particular structure we are getting, and this structure is called as age pyramid, right? So for human population, if you will see the age pyramid, where the age distribution of male and female is shown in combined diagrams, means here you can see a male and here you can see a female, middle line is there, right? So it will show both together, male and female age distribution. Then these pyramids will be reflected. So based on their shape, there are 3 types of the pyramids. That is, one is growing, second stable, and third one is decline. Now growing means what? See here, this is pink color structure is there. It is reproducing post reproductive structure, means they have finished their reproductive age. Now they are not able to take part in the reproduction process. Dark blue color is there, that will show the reproductive age, means here they are having the capacity to reproduce. And yellow structure is there, it is a pre-reproductive stage, means afterwards this population is entering into the reproductive stage, right? And this reproductive stage after some times will enter into the post reproductive stage. So here you have to compare the reproductive and pre-reproductive structure. If the pre-reproductive structure is larger than the reproductive structure, then definitely the population is going to be increase in the future. That's why this model is called as the expanding age pyramid. Suppose the number of reproductive and pre-reproductive structure is the same, then these many will be entering into the post-reproductive, and that the same number will be replaced by the pre-reproductive number of individuals. That's why in future the population is remaining stable, same as it is. There will be no increase or decrease. So this type of age pyramid is there. It is called as a stable. Third one is there. If you will see in this, pre-reproductive structure is there. It is very less in number as compared to the reproductive number. Now this reproductive will in future become the post-reproductive, but the same number it will be not replaced by the pre-reproductive number of individuals. So it will be reproductive individuals number will be less. So automatically reproduction will less occur, and that's why in future the population is going to be decreased. So in this way, depend on their shape, you can understand either this age pyramid is there expanding, stable or decline. Based on this, question will be asked for explaining them or identifying the type of the age pyramid, right? In the population attributes, we have seen a birth rate, death rate, sex ratio. So population density also have, right? Individual will don't have the density. So this is what the age pyramid is shown over here. So age pyramid's definition is given. If the age distribution is plotted for the population, the resulting structure is there, that is called as an age pyramid. Now the shape of the age pyramid is there. It will be reflecting expanding, growing population or a stable population. Just now we have seen in the picture. Now the population growth. If the population growth is there, that population growth will keep on changing. Means sometimes increase, sometimes it will be remain stable, or sometimes get decrease. So this is depend on the different factors, and the factors are given here. The food available for them, weather condition or in the environment, predators pressure on them. If the more number of predators are there, definitely the population will decrease. If the no predators are there, population will be increased. Competition. If the competition is there, definitely the number will be decreased or maintained constantly. No competition is there, population will increase. So the density of a population in a given habitat during the given period changes due to four basic things, that is natality, mortality, immigration and immigration. See in your textbook. See, population density is nothing but the population size, right? So here technical term for the population size is nothing but a population density. Generally population density is denoted by N. Now this population density is there. It is sometimes very less in number, maybe less than 10, or it may be in millions, right? Means take an example, Chlamydomonas in the pond. If you take one, consider one pond, and in that number of Chlamydomonas you will see, then it will be in millions number. So there the number of population is there, it will be in millions. Or if you will see the Siberian crane, then it will be less in number, that you are able to count on your fingers, right? So the population density denoted by N. Population density, when we measure that time taking the exact number of the individuals, is the best one, right? But it is not possible that it is possible in each and every condition. So take an example, suppose in particular area there are huge number of bacteria are there in petri dish culture, so we can't count the number of organisms over there, right? So that's why every time taking the number of individuals is not possible, and sometimes it is not good also, right? Why not good? Now see, take an example, in a particular area there are near about 200 Parthenium plants are there, right? That is a weed plant, very short one. It is called as a Congress grass, right? So if it is in 200 number, and in that same area only one big banyan tree is there. Now here if you will count the number, then definitely the Parthenium grass is there, that density will be more as compared to the banyan tree. But is it true? No, because if you will take a biomass of these two, then definitely banyan tree will have the higher biomass. So here we have to consider the biomass, not the number. So sometimes taking exact number of the individuals for the population density is not possible. So in that case we have to take a relative density. Now what is the relative density? This is nothing but a approximate density. Now approximate density you will get it by the sampling, right? Now this relative density is there, it will give the same result as like the density, exact density what we are calculating. Now take an example for a relative density. Suppose in the one pond you have to calculate what is the density of the fish. So is it possible that enter in the pond and just check and count each and every fish? No, it's not possible, right? So what we do, in one corner of the pond we will trap the fish, right? Now in one cot how many fish has come? The same we will take the sample trap in the other corner at the center, right? So 3-4 places sampling we will take, and then whatever the average number will come, that will give you a relative density. Means in this particular area this much number of fish is there, then this whole pond what is the number of fish, so that will give you a relative density, right? So this relative density and the natural density is there, population density, and both will be having the same measures, right? Same relative density is also used in the forest to find the number of tiger, lion, right? And there they are just following the foot marks, pug marks, or the pellets, fecal pellets are there. By counting the fecal pellets or the pug mark of these animals, they are just calculating the density of that animal in the forest. So this is about the density, relative density and the population density. So both it will be having the same purpose. Now whatever the population growth is there, that we will study in the next video, right? In our next lecture. So today we have done about the adaptations seen in desert plants, animals, then aquatic plants, animals, right? Some of the cold climate animals are there in that, and along with that some of the population attributes also seen, population density also we have seen. So all these points are important. Prepare well, complete your notes. If you don't understand anything, write in comments, right? We will discuss in the next lecture, and complete your notes. All the best.